Three men attacked a CEO in a restaurant. A black single dad's hidden skill changed everything. 3 professional assassins. 1 billionaire CEO. Security, 0. Leonard should have become a blood-stained tableau beneath golden chandeliers and crisp white linens. But the moment violence closed its circle, a man in a waiter's uniform stepped out of the shadows as if the darkness itself belonged to him. 4 seconds later, 3 bodies lay still on the marble floor, and a single glass of red wine spun on the edge of a table like a ticking clock, declaring, "Time's up." His name was Jordan Miles, 34, once part of SEAL Team 6. Now a black single father working the night shift in the back kitchen, swapping out dishwasher filters and polishing silver. What remained wasn't muscle, but muscle memory. Angles, spacing, tempo, and the precise force to stop a strike just shy of becoming lethal. The opening assault was choreographed cold. The first man, thick shoulders, spiderweb tattoo climbing his neck, wrenched Ben Carter from his chair, whiskey spilling like amber streaks across white cloth. The second drove a knee into his ribs, while the third cut off escape with the patience of someone who'd counted panic breaths before. Callie Evans, Ben's assistant, toppled with her chair, eyes already sweeping for exits as Japanese investors backed away in fear. Jordan moved before thought could form. Open hand, an edge strike into the nerve cluster, stealing breath without shattering bone. His elbow followed, shutting down the lights behind the eyes. The second swung wide. Jordan slipped into the pocket, clamped a pressure point, and watched the man collapse like a punctured airbag. The third reached for his shirt. Knife or gun, too late. Jordan's leg scythed the stance away, wrist locked, weapon stripped, head meeting stone with a dry crack. 4 seconds. A soldier's lifetime compressed into 4 breaths. Then silence. Only the ringing of a wine glass that refused to stop spinning, and Callie's sharp intake of air slicing the stillness. Sirens slashed through Manhattan. Jordan stood in the eye of the storm, palms open, chest steady, voice low, clipped. I intervened. I don't know them. I'm not hurt. It was battlefield discipline and survival instinct for a black man under badges and cameras. Step into the light. Keep every gesture transparent, so truth couldn't be twisted by haste or bias. He yielded to medics, turned his back on lenses, asked to give his statement in private. Ben pressed a napkin to his split lip, staring at Jordan like a variable his business models had never accounted for. A man in a waiter's uniform moving like an elite operator, saving lives only to retreat back into invisibility. Callie studied with a strategist's eye. Jordan stood half a step off center to guard the exit. Fingers never truly loose, though his voice stayed calm. Hours later, a hidden angle video leaked. The frame showed only Jordan's back and the falling arcs of bodies, but it was enough. By morning, views had surged like fever. The internet named him the man in white apron. For Jordan, the fire wasn't the problem. It was the smoke. Media, a story told for him, and the danger of one name breaking into the light. Ava, his 8-year-old daughter. That afternoon, Ava's classmates shoved the video toward her. She ran home, clutching her tablet. "Daddy, is that you?" Jordan knelt, brushed aside the strand of blonde hair. A gift from Catherine, her late mother, taken by cancer. "Yes, it's me, but I only helped someone who needed it, the same way you helped Mrs. Lei Chen carry her groceries." Ava threw her arms around his neck, whispering, "I know you're a superhero." And inside Jordan, a thin pane of ice cracked like glass in sunlight. 2 days later, Callie appeared at the playground near their Queens apartment. Ava soared on the swing, laughter spilling into the golden air. Jordan spotted Callie from afar, coat too refined for wet grass, shoes whispering wealth, but he didn't avoid her. "I wanted to thank you properly," she said once close enough. Jordan nodded. He saw through the courtesy to the woman beneath. Someone practiced at holding others upright. He also saw the waves behind her. Lawyers, media, envelopes buying silence in exchange for control. Callie watched him push the swing, recognizing the rhythm. Every decision mapped back to one priority. Ava's childhood intact. "I'm Callie," she introduced, then leaned toward Ava. The girl inspected her with the solemnity only children carry, then declared, "I'm Ava. This is my dad. My dad is really strong." For the first time that day, Callie's smile was real. That night, Jordan cleaned the kitchen after Ava slept. The window breathed in the damp scent of Queens. His phone buzzed. A notification of tomorrow's delivery. A package from Carter Industries. Jordan stared at the dimming screen, listening to his daughter stir in the next room. He knew peace never came free. It always arrived with a bill attached. The package from Carter Industries arrived at 9 a.m. A thick envelope, glossy letterhead, ink still fresh on the signature. "Mr. Jordan Miles is requested to appear at headquarters, 3 p.m., 43rd floor." Translated into plain language, a polite summons. Jordan put on his only suit. In the mirrored glass elevator, he caught his reflection. Not the man in the white apron, not the former SEAL, just a father measuring the risk in every nod and every refusal. The 43rd floor opened like a museum of power. Ben Carter paced behind a desk the size of a ship's deck. Callie stood slightly behind, notebook open. "What do you want?" Ben asked in his native tongue. 6-figure offers, an advisory position, a legal team, a media track to steer the narrative toward profit. Jordan heard enough to know the goal. Buy his silence, box him into corporate social responsibility, close the file and shelve it. He shook his head. "I just want to be left alone. I want to come home safe to my daughter every night." Ben froze for half a beat. He was a man used to nods for profit, not refusals for peace. Everyone wants something. Jordan's reply was clipped. "Ava wants her dad present." Callie saw them like opposite poles of a magnet. One pulled everything with financial gravity, the other clung only to the essentials that sheltered a small home. She didn't interrupt, but she understood Jordan wouldn't sell his story. He didn't want to be a symbol. A symbol meant spotlight. And for a black man, spotlight often carried more risk than reward. The meeting ended polite but cold. That afternoon, Jordan picked up Ava from school, then stopped at the store for her science project. In the Halloween aisle, Callie appeared, heels among seas of orange plastic. She lifted a princess dress, raised a brow. "Ava likes this?" Ava frowned. "I'm a ninja. Princesses can't do backflips." Jordan laughed, the sound lifting the weight from his chest. Along the aisle, they talked. Callie spoke of her mother working 3 jobs and the lesson that stability outweighed romance. Jordan shared little. Catherine loved bad TV shows, had the best laugh, and faced cancer with courage. At self-checkout, Callie asked, "Are you afraid?" Jordan looked at Ava, tapping the screen. More afraid of the spotlight than the bad guys. Bad guys have shifts. The spotlight doesn't clock out. Leaks from the investigation spread. The Leonard attack wasn't random. The 3 men were tied to a company that had been taken over. Its founding family collapsed. The father had thrown himself from a balcony. A speck of dust in the public's eye. Small, but it burned. Jordan saw the pattern. Planned violence rarely ends in one act. When money and revenge tangle, the next round is usually crueler. 3 days later, on an ordinary afternoon, a sniper's bullet shattered Carter's office glass. Ben survived only because he was washing his hands. On the rooftop door, scratched words read, "This isn't over." For the first time, Ben skipped all intermediaries and dialed Jordan directly. On the other end was the sound of a man staring at his own reflection and not seeing power. "I need you." Jordan watched the second hand sweep past 12. "If I do this, it's under my rules," he said, "and when it's done, it ends. No loose ends." A beat of silence. "Deal," Ben answered, the word light because he had just set down his pride. The next day, Jordan passed the turnstiles with a guest badge. Official title, Process Consultant. Real title, Breaker of Dangerous Habits. He walked the halls, tested fire doors, measured the distance from Ben's desk to the exit to the stairs to the garage. He demanded a schedule without patterns, proposed replacing improvisation with controlled randomness. A few executives frowned. Callie nodded, hand moving quickly over her notes. By evening, Jordan handed in his first report. "There are 17 obvious gaps," he read like a grocery list. "Routine routes, blind camera spots, guest passes that never expire, roof doors unlocked, no exaggeration, just facts. And there's one gap that can't be written on the page," he added when only 3 people remained. "When attackers can't break the main target, they'll hit who he cares about most." Callie didn't ask who, neither did Ben. Both already knew. Jordan closed the file with finality. From tomorrow, no fixed hours, no fixed car, no fixed routes, no schedule sent more than 24 hours ahead. And tomorrow night, we run a real scenario. That night, Jordan tucked Ava into bed, reading a chapter on Cretaceous dinosaurs. "Daddy, are you going to fight again?" she asked, eyes heavy. He didn't promise what he couldn't control. He promised only what he could keep. "Tomorrow morning, I'll still take you to school." As the nightlight cast blue whales across her wall, Jordan stepped onto the balcony, gazing at a city glowing like fallen stars, and silently counted the doors that had to be closed before dawn. The morning after the call, "I need you." Jordan Miles began by breaking habits. He redrew every path of Ben Carter the way an engineer would reinforce a trembling bridge. Swap cars, swap drivers, change departure times, even switch mid-route, sending a decoy vehicle straight on while the real one peeled off into a different garage. Reducing predictability was the same as choking the oxygen out of a fire. Ben grumbled. Power hated detours, but Callie Evans nodded, scribbling every variable, meeting schedules, visitor lists, side entrances, temporary badges. By the third afternoon, 2 men were caught in the parking deck trying to rig a device under Carter's black sedan. They stayed silent as stone, but their tools spoke. Professional kit, fingerprints of formal training. Jordan read the scene like a graph. Each failure meant higher stakes, more money, more recklessness. The next attempt would be both smarter and crueler. He pulled Ben onto the balcony for air. His voice dropped to a radio whisper, "They won't stop. Every miss gets them closer, and when they can't hit you directly, they'll strike what you care about most, because that's the only target you can't replace." Ben said nothing. A vein pulsed in his neck, silent admission. Through the glass wall, Callie watched, already knowing whose name Jordan hadn't spoken aloud. The plan had to turn proactive, lure the wolf into the woods. Jordan staged a secret board meeting at Carter's Westchester estate, then leaked it deliberately through the channel he and Callie had seeded. Security on paper was dialed down just enough for the scent of blood to spread to the right ears. The reality was different. Jordan reshaped the grounds, cutting some lights, locking certain exits, leaving a few doors temptingly open, funneling intruders into choke points. The floor plan became a battlefield map. Ava Miles was priority number 1. Jordan sent her to New Jersey with Mrs. Lei Chen's sister. He didn't lie. "Daddy's working a night shift. I'll still take you to school in the morning." Ava's hug weighed like armor, not bulletproof, but binding him to return. Before he closed the door, she reminded him, "Daddy, eat breakfast. You always forget." Jordan smiled, slipped a granola bar into his pocket like a talisman. Callie insisted on staying at the estate. "If something happens to Ben, I have to be here," she said, her quiet tone ending the argument. Jordan handed her a secure phone and a single code word for the panic room. "Don't open for anyone, not even someone claiming to be me. Only after the code." When their hands brushed during the handoff, a charge ran through her. Jordan only nodded. Trust counted. Then he faded back into the dark. Tactical framework. Quick. Kill predictability. Swap cars, times, routes, add decoys, change drivers last minute, break surveillance chains. Funnel space, lock decoy entrances, design light-dark zones to strip coordination. Soft safety protocols, code word, secure phone, single communication line, Jordan, prevent false commands. Bias management, gunfire, lighting, and camera angles, positioned so no frame could. Miss cast a black man with a weapon. 2 a.m. The suburban woods held their breath. 7 silhouettes cut through the pines. Hand signals, staggered formation, rhythm of stop and go, military language. At the front was Silas Ward, thin scar from ear to collar, the pale, burnt-out eyes of a man too long near the wrong fire. A former security contractor Ben had fired for selling secrets, now mixing personal vendetta with a contract kill. Jordan left the first floor as an open stage. One door left ajar, one fake blind spot, one hallway narrow enough for single file. The first intruder stepped into the blind corner. A snap. Jordan's elbow crushed his carotid. Eyes rolled back. The second charged. Door swung. Wood shattered nose. Blood sprayed like fireworks. The first gunfire cracked from their side. Sparks licking plaster. Stone chips raining down. Jordan slid across a cabinet. Rode the stairwell's gravity to dump a third man, ending him in a joint lock, soft as sleep. Silas paused half a beat, listening. He recognized the truth. His enemy wasn't killing. He was neutralizing. A philosophy deadly in the hands of someone who knew exactly how. "Switch to Plan B," Silas barked. 2 men veered toward the kitchen, already staged. The fridge became a shield, the island a pivot point. Crossfire turned against them, bodies dropping like toppled pieces. The inevitable duel arrived. Jordan met Silas beneath the chandelier, light fracturing into shards across marble. They circled, strike to elbow, knee for knee, grip for pull. Jordan's flank burned. Blade had kissed skin, leaving a hot line. His left hand tingled, a hairline fracture buzzing with pain. Silas spat words between blows. He stole everything. Decent men are left with nothing. Jordan's gaze never left his opponent's shoulder. His voice was even. "Nothing you do will bring it back." They crashed over a console, stone figurine toppling. Silas was iron, every angle countered. Jordan adapted. Trade a hit to the face for one to the ribs, sacrifice an arm for a step inside. Sweat blurred with blood. Outside, the wind hissed like another blade. In the panic room, the secure phone buzzed. Callie and Ben stayed silent, walls humming with muffled chaos. She clutched the device, repeating the code word like a prayer. The steel door felt heavier than mountains, but the priority was carved in stone. open only when the voice and the code aligned. Silas's rhythm faltered, fatigue creeping in. Jordan saw the gap. One feint to the face drew Silas's guard high, then 3 strikes landed clean. Carotid, half-beat blackout, rib, breath stolen, knee, pillar broken. Silas collapsed, still breathing. Exactly the boundary Jordan had sworn never to cross since leaving the SEALs. The radio hissed faint. Jordan stepped back, pressing cloth to his bleeding side, lifted the secure phone. Code. After a needle-thin silence, the panic room's mechanism clicked open. The rest of the night, counting survivors, binding enemies, calling federal agents, was only beginning. But the real battle was over. It ended without taking a life. Dawn poured over Westchester like forensic light, cold, impartial, exposing. Federal black sedans clogged the driveway. Silas Ward and his surviving men were cuffed, eyes cast down as though already sentenced. Ben Carter stood on the front steps, bandage across the old split on his lip, looking like a man who just endured a ritual cleansing he never chose. Callie Evans did what she did best, turned chaos into order. She drafted lists, who to call first, who to call after, which phrases to use, which to avoid entirely. A media framework rose like a suspension bridge across a gorge. Acknowledge truth, thank the rescuer, stress cooperation with authorities, lock the narrative inside legal scaffolding. Never mythologize the attackers into dark legends. When federal investigators pulled the threads, one link snapped free. Grant Lowell, head of security at Carter Industries, stopped at the airport gate with a passport, a ticket to a non-extradition country, and an encrypted hard drive. Everyone has a price, he smirked in cuffs. You just haven't counted high enough. Ben looked at him like a faded mirror. Years of tallying numbers, too few people, until the cost ran beyond reach. Jordan ran his final checks, counting breaths, making sure every pulse still beat. His combat code was as steady as a parachute cord. If a life could be spared, it would. Local police arrived first, some casting looks half respect, half suspicion, the reflex of bias. Jordan stood in the open light, palms spread, voice calm. Another act of image management so truth could be seen intact. Callie stepped beside him like a silent declaration. The story would be told right. 3 days later, the press conference. Blue backdrop, white logo, microphones like a bamboo thicket. Ben opened with 2 words rare in a CEO's lexicon. Thank you. He spoke of Jordan Miles's professionalism, restraint, and cooperation, emphasizing that non-lethality was an ethical choice, not a lack of options. Jordan stood one step back, borrowed suit, facing the spotlights like a man staring into the sun. Ava's name was never spoken. Her image never shown. Callie cut off every prying question that angled toward private life. When a reporter pressed about military past, Jordan gave only enough. I served. Now I'm a father. I did what decent people do when danger comes. The answer sealed the topic like the lid on a music box. Just enough melody, no chance for the room to play with the rhythm. After the conference, the diamond offer came again. More polished, more generous. Head of security, high 6 figures. Ava's college guaranteed. Health insurance, car, a whole team. Ben was blunt. I want you close. I sleep better knowing you're in the building. Jordan looked out the glass at a city of 100,000 lit squares. In one square he saw himself and Ava. Laughter, the smell of burnt garlic. I don't belong in glass towers, he said, steady without hardness. I want to teach people how not to fight. I want to be home in time for homework." Ben had learned in the Westchester night that power couldn't buy everything. He nodded. No push this time. From then on, Ben began showing up. School plays, science fairs, birthdays with overbaked cakes. Ava called him Uncle Ben, a title absent from any business card but richer than all others. Callie left traces in small spaces: the kitchen table, the couch, a library corner. She didn't take up room, she filled what was missing. Jordan watched her gentleness click into his life like a puzzle piece waiting for the right hand. Inside Carter Industries, Ben launched reforms. Not just new guards, but new culture. Flexible schedules, randomized routes, crisis drills. More crucial, new speech protocols and unconscious bias training, so when a non-white employee intervened in danger, they wouldn't be framed as a threat simply because the camera angle made them look scary. Jordan's fingerprints pressed into policy, though he held no office. One night, after math homework with Ava, Callie stayed to do dishes. Jordan wiped the table, listening to water and laughter weaving into music he'd searched for too long. He leaned on the counter, speaking without turning. "Catherine would have liked you." Callie set the last plate in the rack, turned, eyes glistening. "I'm not here to replace anyone. I just want to be here." Jordan nodded. Some answers don't need a hand to hold, but they hold the whole room. Ethics and image analysis. Westchester didn't just close an operation. It drew Jordan's boundaries. Don't kill if restraint is possible. Don't sell the story if the price is your daughter's privacy. Don't take a job if it steals dinner hours. For a black father, every choice also meant managing the gaze of the world, choosing light, calm words, movements that didn't trigger prejudice, so truth had a chance to be seen. At the end, Ben sent a short message. "Thanks for everything. If one day you change your mind..." Jordan replied with a photo, a plate of pasta on the kitchen table, Ava's math homework beside it, and a line, "I'm right where I belong." Below it, Callie added a heart emoji. The three of them weren't the rapid response team of any corporation. They were the slow response team of a home, answering with dinners, homework, laughter. And that was why Jordan had fought back in those first 4 seconds at Leonard, so that ordinary nights like this could last forever. The first Sunday morning after Westchester, the smell of pancake batter mixed with laughter bouncing off kitchen walls. Ava Miles cracked an egg too hard, yolk spilling like sunlight. Jordan brushed the shell into the trash, his other hand stirring batter in slow circles, like counting breaths. Callie Evans, in a loose sweater with her hair tied low, brewed coffee. In this small queen's kitchen, she was no longer the cool assistant of an empire, but the woman reminding him, "Don't forget a pinch of salt," makes the batter sweeter. Little things. Salt, the sizzle of butter, the way someone sets down a cup softly enough not to wake a child, became rituals. And rituals were the anchors of peace. Ava solemnly presented Jordan with a mission contract, her upcoming science project, the Egg Drop Challenge. "You're a SEAL, Daddy. You know how to save an egg," she declared. Jordan smiled. "SEALs save people, but we can learn to protect eggs, too." Callie leaned in. "We build a shock-absorbing frame. The math is about reducing acceleration before impact." Her voice slipped into meeting mode, but her eyes sparkled like a child about to play. That afternoon, the three of them wrestled with straws, rubber bands, and duct tape. Jordan sketched center of gravity, load points, dispersion of force. Every free fall needs an exit. Every impact can be softened. He paused, realizing. It was his life's philosophy. Reduce predictability, reduce force, preserve life. Ava named the design Aegis, the shield. Callie glanced at Jordan, half joking, half true. This family might need 3 shields. The next day, Jordan walked into the Queens Community Center, a faded brick building with a weathered sign. Director Dana Ortiz, solid frame, firm handshake, listened as Jordan outlined a community self-defense program. Not pretty punches, but escapes, non-lethal locks, body language under stress, and most important, legal boundaries. "I don't want these kids to become fighters," Jordan said. "I want them to become people who know how to get home." Ortiz nodded, but sighed. The budget was paper thin. Just then, Ben Carter walked in like a cool breeze through the hot room. No suit, sleeves rolled, looking years younger. "I won't interfere with the curriculum," he said. "If you teach, I'll fund scholarships for students. Call it the Aegis Fund if you'll allow it." Jordan hesitated. He hated dependence, but saw the door it could open for dozens of kids. "Money to the fund, not my account," he said firmly. Ben smiled. "Deal." Opening day of class. Jordan faced a group of teens, some in frayed caps, some in shoes worn to the heel. He began with a line that made the room chuckle. Lesson 1, running is a skill. Lesson 2, talking is a weapon. He showed 4 hand positions that wouldn't trigger aggression, 5 phrases to de-escalate an argument, 6 ways to break a hold without breaking a bone. A boy raised his hand. "Mister, have you ever—" Jordan answered simply, "Yes." And I chose not to keep doing it. In their eyes, strength had just been redefined, not as the hardest punch, but as the cleanest way out. That evening, Callie and Ava tested Aegis in the courtyard. Mrs. La Chen served as judge, phone camera ready. The egg dropped from the 2nd floor, the contraption twirling like a jellyfish, landing intact. Ava screamed with joy, leaping into Jordan's arms. "Daddy!" Her laughter splattered the walls like paint. Callie's high five landed warm against his palm. Small collisions like that, Jordan thought, were the current that kept a home lit. On another night, Ben invited them to his penthouse, a thank you without ceremony. Glass doors opened to Manhattan spread like a jeweled map. Ava pressed her face to the window. Ben showed them his piano. He admitted he played poorly, and an old photo of his late brother. "You know," he said quietly, "nights up here are very loud." Jordan understood. Sometimes silence at this height had its own kind of noise. Over dinner, Ben asked about the self-defense class. Jordan told the story of Aegis and the kids. Ben grew still. "I spent too much building the 43rd floor," he said. "Too little on the handrails at the ground floor." Callie studied him and saw a version of Ben only small kitchens and community projects could call out. Less steel, more skin. Before they left, Ben handed Jordan a small box. Not jewelry, but a panic button linked directly to a new federal security team, not to a CEO's office. "For Ava," he said. Jordan accepted, partly because it was useful, partly because he'd learned to receive help without feeling owned. Science day at school. The gym fluttered with streamers. Kids unveiled contraptions like a street market. Parachutes, cotton pads, straw nests. Iva's Aegis wasn't the tallest, but it was balanced. When the teacher counted down, her design fell, bounced, and the egg survived whole. Ava hugged Callie first, then Jordan. Ben's camera clicked relentlessly, each photo another tile for the wall of Jordan's apartment. That night, as Jordan washed dishes, Callie dried bowls. "You realize," she said, "we just taught Ava about security without saying the word security. Designed to absorb, leave room to breathe, manage the force." Jordan nodded, drying his hands. then tossed garlic in a pan. It burned, as usual. Callie laughed, grabbed the skillet. Let me watch the garlic. Theme analysis. Short. Rituals, pancakes, homework, dishes, became the operating system of peace. Safety architecture moved from battlefield tactics to everyday life, the Aegis Project, the self-defense class. Power repositioned. Ben used money not to buy people, but to open doors for a community. Jordan used skill not to win fights, but to bring others home. When the kitchen lights went dark, Queens murmured outside. Inside, 3 steady breaths belonged to a home learning how to stand firm. Wednesday afternoon, they stopped by the supermarket after school to buy cardboard and markers. Callie pushed the cart while Ava hopped from tile to tile as if playing hopscotch. Jordan checked the list: milk, bread, cocoa powder. Ava insisted on making Uncle Ben's cocoa. At self-checkout, Jordan scanned items. The machine beeped with a long, unusual tone and flashed red. A young clerk hurried over, polite at first, but after glancing at Jordan, a tall black man, his tone shifted. "Sir, there's a problem with this item. I need to check your bag." Jordan lowered both hands to his hips, fingers spread. His voice was low, clear, just loud enough for the ceiling mic to catch every word. "I consent to your check. I won't reach into the bag unless you ask me. My daughter is standing right here." Callie stepped forward half a pace, company badge still quiet in her wallet. "We just paid. The beep is from a tag that wasn't deactivated," she said, not sharp, but locked onto procedure. "Please call your manager. We'll remain right here." The clerk faltered, but security had already arrived, suspicion written on their faces. Jordan turned his head slightly, angling away from a camera shot that could frame aggression. "My name is Jordan Miles," he said evenly. "I'll show ID if required. I won't touch you. I request the manager." Ava squeezed Callie's hand. Callie bent down and whispered, "Watch your dad. He's teaching the hardest lesson every black parent has to teach. Stay calm under the camera." The manager arrived, checked the machine log. Yes, a missed tag. Apologies followed. The words were procedural, but they didn't erase the scratch already left behind. Jordan nodded. "Thank you." No demand for damages, no speech. But he looked straight into the guard's eyes for 1 second. Enough for the message to carry. Respect isn't charity. Out in the parking lot, Ava finally cried. "I thought they were going to take you." Jordan pulled her close. He hated this. The need to teach his daughter rules he wished didn't exist. "I'll always bring you home," he said, "but sometimes to do that, I have to speak in the way the camera wants to hear." Callie placed her hand on his back, soft enough to return his breath to steady rhythm. That night, a pan slipped from the counter and crashed to the floor, a small explosion. Jordan bolted awake, sweat cold, eyes locked on shadows. For a split second, Westchester returned. Flames, marble, knife to his side. Callie didn't flip on the light. She sat beside him, voice steady, guiding him through the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, grounding. 5 things you see: curtains, photo frame, lamp, my hand, the ceiling. 4 things you touch: sheet, bed frame, my skin, your shirt. 3 things you hear: the fridge, cars outside, my breath. 2 things you smell: soap, rain. 1 thing you taste: dry tongue. Jordan followed her rhythm, pulling himself back from the edge of panic into the center of the room. She didn't rescue. She co-regulated. When the light came on, it didn't hurt. The next morning, driving Ava to school. Green light, Jordan drove, then flashing red behind. The officer approached. "Your left tail light's out." Jordan lowered the window, both hands placed at 10 and 2 on the wheel. "Officer, I'll move my right hand to get my wallet from my back pocket." His tone was crisp, not challenging. The officer nodded, checked, returned the papers. "Fix the light soon, and sorry to bother your little one before school." He glanced at Ava, forcing a small smile. Ava nodded, eyes still damp. As the car rolled forward, she whispered, "I don't like this law." Jordan answered, "I don't either, but until it's rewritten, we read it this way." That afternoon, the community center was packed. Word spread about the new class. Mr. Jordan teaches you how to get out of trouble, not into it. He led 3 drills: non-triggering stance, de-escalating words, "I get you're upset, give me a minute," and escape routes in tight rooms. A boy asked, "What if they insult you?" Jordan was honest. Words can sting. But don't let words bait you. The trap always needs your overreaction. Near the end, Ben Carter slipped quietly into the back row. No photos. Just listening to Jordan teach the strength of not doing. Toward closing, Jordan told the story of the Aegis egg. When you fall, don't try to smash the ground back. Learn how to cushion yourself. The kids laughed, then nodded. That evening, they ate spaghetti. Jordan burned the garlic. "Extra fragrant," Callie teased. Ava shared how her teacher praised Aegis as an example of smart design. Jordan looked at his 2 girls, one by blood, one by choice, and felt the anger from the supermarket dissolve into sauce and clinking spoons. At the sink, Callie dried dishes beside him. "You taught 2 classes today," she said. "One at the center, one at the supermarket, both hard." Jordan nodded. "I wish I didn't have to teach the second." Callie leaned her head on his shoulder. "The day you don't will be the day Ava teaches her own kids how to pick garlic without burning it." Double consciousness in practice, analysis. Posture, voice, camera, position. Jordan shaped his presence so truth could be seen, not rewritten by a biased script. Cooling language. Ask for a manager. Request procedure. Avoid personal. Confrontation. Steer the conflict into an institutional frame. Self-care in trauma. Callie used 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, grounding, co-regulation instead of. Rescue. Respecting Jordan's agency. The night closed with Queens murmuring outside as always, but inside, the day's hard lessons were shelved beside Aegis, a shield of cardboard and tape, lighter than it looked, holding more than they expected. Tomorrow, they would cook dinner, do homework, teach class again. Peace wasn't magic, it was a skill, and they were practicing it every day. The first rain of the season laid a thin sheet of silver over the tracks cutting through Queens. Jordan Miles chose the small iron bridge over the rail line as his breathing space between 2 worlds. On one side, the rumble of trains, like history refusing sleep. On the other, the kitchen light of the apartment where Ava laughed with Callie Evans. His hand slipped into his coat pocket, brushing the small box he had yet to open. Tonight, there were no fireworks, no audience, only a promise. And that promise, more than anything, was the discipline he meant to bind himself to. A week earlier, a gust of headwind had blown through their little home. A stray post on social media, powerful assistant dating the man in the white apron? Half truth, half fiction, spreading like fire on dry paper. Callie stayed silent, but Jordan saw her shoulders tighten each time her phone buzzed. In the company halls, whispers chilled the air. "She's walking through the wrong door, or too fast." She smiled professionally, deleting cruel comments before Ava could read them. What she couldn't delete was memory. Marcus Hale, the banker fiancé who once promised, I'll choose you before any deal. Then didn't. The end was a returned ring, and her mother's cracked hands holding hers through the night after. From then on, Callie became an expert in holding others steady, yet never trusted anyone would steady her. On the evening the post exploded, Jordan washed dishes. He didn't bring it up, he just stood beside her longer as she dried cups. And when Ava was asleep, he told a story he rarely spoke. Catherine, in her last night at the hospital, holding his hand and saying, "I don't want you to stay in the trenches forever, Jordan. If light finds you, don't block it out." Callie didn't cry, but when he finished, she pressed her hand gently to his chest, right where his armor used to lie, and said, "If you want, I could stand here instead." That was when Jordan decided. On the bridge, a train thundered beneath, wind flaring his coat like wings. Callie arrived, hair tied low, carrying a cup of cocoa. Uncle Ben's recipe. "I thought you called me out to plan class schedules." Jordan smiled, taking her hand. "I called you out to plan a different schedule." He opened the box, a slim ring, not dazzling, but right. "I can't promise I'll never be afraid. I promise, when I am, I'll say it. I can't promise I'll never falter. I promise, when I do, I'll return. You've helped me turn tactics into life. Callie, will you marry me?" Callie didn't answer at once. She looked down through the chain-link fence at wheels spinning like time. "I've stood here before, between promises and disappointment. I'm afraid of loving someone too good at keeping promises to everyone but himself. But if you promise to speak when you're weary, and if I promise not to run when I hear hard truths, then maybe." She lifted her head. "Yes." Jordan didn't kneel. He embraced her. Another train roared past, its wind syncing with their heartbeat. Ava discovered the news in the most delicate way, by smell. "It smells like cookies," she said, rushing into the kitchen. Callie, always composed, blushed like a new student. "Because we have good news." Ava blinked 3 times, then leapt. "I have a mom now." Jordan knelt eye level with her. "If you agree, we'll try, being a real family of 3. Ava nodded furiously, then grew serious. "But won't Mommy Catherine be sad?" Jordan hugged her close. "Mommy Catherine will be happy, because the light she wanted me not to hide, it's here now." The wedding took place in the botanical garden, where Ava once asked Callie about dinosaurs and seasonal blooms. Ben Carter walked the bride down the aisle, joking he was only allergic to humidity and vows that made everyone's heart ache with joy. Mrs. Lei Chen wept salty tears in the front row, sometimes pinching Jordan to slow down for the photographers. Silas Ward wasn't there. He sat awaiting trial. The shadow of Westchester receded like a finished reel shelved away. Jordan read his vows. "I didn't find you after the battle, but in the middle of one. You taught me victory isn't about taking someone down, it's about keeping a home standing. I promise to walk slow when you're tired, to step ahead when you're afraid, to walk beside you when you want silence." Callie's vows. "I spent my life being useful. Today, I choose to be loved. I promise to open the door when you knock at 3 a.m. with nightmares, and to close it when the world knocks during Ava's homework hour." Ava held triple titles: Flower Girl, Ring Bearer, and unofficial MC. When Jordan and Callie kissed, she dashed into their orbit, shouting into the mic, "I finally have a mom." The garden erupted in laughter, waves of joy rolling across the flower beds. The reception was small in Ben's backyard. His surprise wedding package, covering all expenses plus a new fund for the Aegis program at the community center. "I'm not buying anyone's happiness," Ben said. "I'm just repaying a fraction of the light you showed me." Jordan raised a glass of lemonade, the rare time he chose to speak first. "Thank you, Uncle Ben. Sunday dinners will always have a seat for you." That night, they sat on the window ledge, watching Queens pretend to be Manhattan, tiny yellow lights landing like stars. Callie rested her head on Jordan's shoulder. "I don't know if the future holds another Westchester night," she said softly. "But if it does, I want to know that after it, we'll still be washing dishes, doing homework, mixing pancake batter." Jordan smiled. "That's my favorite battle plan." Emotional and conflict cadence. Soft climax. The wedding doesn't fix the world outside, but redefines the inner covenant. Vows as operating rules for family. Media scar. The rumor post tested the resilience of the bond Callie didn't fight it with. Anger, but with choice, the ring. Ethical memory. Catherine isn't replaced. She becomes the light guiding a new home. After the wedding, life didn't turn into a fairy tale. It became deeper, more structured. Jordan began designing the Aegis curriculum with 2 layers. The skills layer, stance, de-escalation posture, escape routes, non-lethal locks, and the ideological layer, ethics of force, legal boundaries, double consciousness under the camera. He wrote scenario scripts: supermarket, train station, schoolyard. Each script carried de-escalation keywords: "Give me 60 seconds," "I hear you," exit paths, doors, steps, railings, and stopping points, when to call 911. Callie shifted from Ben Carter's full-time assistant to an independent strategy consultant. She still supported Ben during crises that required words, but Ava's homework hour was now an untouchable blind spot. At home, Callie stocked a cabinet, emergency chocolate in the bottom drawer, 3 a.m. kit in the top, tea patches playlist. Ben teased, "You've turned your apartment into an emotional ops center." Callie winked. When systems run smooth, crises burn less fuel. Dana Ortiz called Jordan into her office. "The city wants to see Aegis, maybe scale it up." Jordan agreed on one condition: not to turn his class into a neighborhood militia. Aegis teaches conflict reduction, not conflict hunting. The demo was set in a public school gym. Ben sat quietly in the stands. Callie worked through her checklist: rolls of gauze, water, emergency contact list, cameras mounted high to ensure fair framing. Exercise 1, reaction circle. One student played aggressor, another the target. Jordan placed them 3 steps apart, shoulders lowered, palms open. They practiced opening lines. "I'll listen after I take a sip of water. Let me stand at an angle so it's not head-on." Small moves, but the body language shifted. On camera, it looked like dialogue, not confrontation. Officer Laura Green, observing for the police department, nodded as Jordan explained teaching kids to announce every hand movement when reaching for ID if an officer asked. A hard lesson, but one that buys seconds against fatal misunderstanding. Exercise 2, the narrow box. Jordan built a hallway of 2 boards, teaching how to move like water. Shoulders angled, weight shifting, never colliding head-on. "This skill saved me at Westchester," he said. The gym went silent. The night ceased to be legend. It became a learnable procedure. Mid-session, a middle-aged father stood up. "Why should we teach our kids to bow? Why don't they learn respect for us?" Jordan held his ground without pushing back. "We don't teach them to bow. We teach them to pass through. Sometimes fighting is right, sometimes passing through is victory. Aegis doesn't turn your kid into a stone. It makes them water." The man sat down. Ben looked at Jordan with the kind of pride he rarely wore in the corporate tower. That night, the family gathered around the table. A weekly map hung on the wall. Jordan's classes, Callie's consults, Ava's new piano lessons, gently encouraged by Uncle Ben. "I don't like scales," Ava groaned. "Scales feel like push-ups." Jordan laughed. "Push-ups build leverage, scales build fingers. Both are rituals." Callie added, "Rituals are the fuel of peace." Late one night, Jordan prepared for a talk at a community forum. Security as culture. He outlined 5 points. Reduce predictability to reduce risk. 2. Funnel safe spaces, schools, parking lots, public buildings. 3. De-escalation language and media framing, cameras set at fair angles. 4. Unconscious bias training, so non-white interveners aren't boxed in by perception. 5. Ethics of force. If you can lock, don't break. If they can breathe, don't choke. If you can, pass through, don't clash. It wasn't eloquent, it was like a manual, and people took notes seriously. While Jordan worked the forum, Callie fought her own battle. An urgent midnight call from Carter Industries over a leak. She refused to fly in. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., she said. The caller bristled. Ben texted privately, "Hold the line. We'll handle it in the morning." By 8 a.m., Ben was already at the office, dousing flames with process, transparency, audits, no scapegoats. At 10, he texted Callie a photo of Ava practicing scales. "Told you, home rhythm is the blind spot. Keep it that way." That weekend, Aegis held an outdoor drill. A small group in the park, learning to read the landscape like sheet music. Benches as rests, paths as melody, exits as refrains. Jordan showed them how to split into lead, rear, and counter roles when walking at night. Ava was the counter, tasked with counting heads every 5 minutes. She took it so seriously she forgot her snack. Callie snapped photos, saving the album as everyday light. That night, Jordan stood at the sink, water running like rain. "Do you ever think we're turning instinct into institution?" Callie asked. "Yes," Jordan replied, "because instinct saves one night, institution saves years." Callie leaned into him. "Sounds like something that stands even if we face another Westchester." Jordan nodded, shutting the tap. "If it comes, we'll still wash dishes. That's the institution of this home." From tactics to culture, analysis. Standardizing skills. Aegis turned the Westchester night into modules. True. Immortality lies in passing on the skill. Family work boundaries. Callie set schedules as operating code. Ben respected. Them. Organizational culture shifts by example. Security as culture. Cameras, protocols, language, bias training. 4 pillars to ensure. Truth is seen, and good people aren't harmed by prejudice again. When the dining room light switched off, 3 breaths inside the apartment merged into one rhythm. Outside, the city stayed loud, but inside, the song already had structure, opening with pancakes, rising with Aegis, softening with dishwashing, resolving with bedtime stories. Tomorrow, the song would repeat, with new variations, and that repetition itself was peace. Monday, Federal Courthouse. The line at the turnstiles stretched long, fluorescent lights washing everyone pale. Silas Ward entered the courtroom in cuffs, his gaze flat as a windless lake. Jordan Miles wasn't there. He was at the community center, setting up models for the Aegis showcase. A skills day on escape, de-escalation, survival for the kids. Callie Evans sat mid-row in court, representing him, holding a folded statement Jordan had handwritten the night before. Ink still smudged where Ava had hugged him across the page. The prosecutor recited charges dryly. Attempted murder, conspiracy, illegal weapons, unlawful entry, compounded aggravations. The defense spun a story of human motive, a family ruined after an M&A, a man cast out of his job, resentment hardened into action. The judge cut in, motive is not justification. Before sentencing, the court allowed a victim impact statement. Callie rose, paper in hand. Her voice steady. "My name is Callie Evans. I'm reading the words of Jordan Miles." She inhaled, then read, "I do not ask this court to take a life for mine. I promised my daughter that after leaving the service I would never take another life. I kept that promise even when it was hardest. I ask this court to make justice mean prevention of repetition, and to place responsibility where it belongs, on those who committed crimes, and on the systems that allowed anger to turn into planning. If there is restitution, I request it be directed into the Aegis Fund to teach children how to move through conflict without violence. I do not want a hero spotlight. That light blinds and erases the path home. I only want to walk my daughter to school each morning. Finally, I ask the court to protect witnesses and pursue everyone in the chain of conspiracy, whether they sat in server rooms or boardrooms." The courtroom fell silent. The defense lawyer looked up, then down. Ben Carter, in the back row, clenched his hands on his knees. He heard in each word another verdict, for himself. All those years counting profit more than people. The judge delivered multiple years for Silas, with special supervision and restitution directed to community funds, as requested. The sentence acknowledged the severity, but also that no lives had been lost, rare in an attempted murder case. 2 co-conspirators pled out. Testimony from Grant Lowell, former head of security, nailed the chain from parking garage to leaked intel. A corporate audit commissioner was indicted for obstruction. Several chairs at Carter's long table would sit empty for years. Outside court, reporters swarmed. Callie walked through the microphones as if crossing a minefield. "We respect the verdict. Mr. Carter will speak on internal reforms Thursday. Regarding Jordan, please do not ask about his private life. He is teaching a class right now." A reporter pressed, "Are you dating him?" Callie paused half a beat, turned. "Today is about justice. Love is private, and it isn't bad news. Polite, framed, closed." At that same moment, in a public school gym, Jordan blew the whistle for the narrow kitchen drill. 2 students slid past each other without collision, changing angles before changing words. Behind him hung the Aegis banner. Not about avoiding storms, about learning to row. Ava wore her name tag, Checker, dutifully counting heads every 5 minutes, solemn as the receptionist of peace itself. Ben arrived late, sitting in the back, no introductions, only clapping with the other parents when a boy diffused a mock fight with, "Just give me 60 seconds. Thursday afternoon, Carter boardroom. Fuller than any shareholder meeting in recent memory. Ben placed a new ethical M&A charter on the table. 1. Mandatory human impact assessments pre- and post-merger. 2. Transition funds for acquired employees, retraining, job placement, counseling. 3. Security policy detached from executive interests, reporting directly to an independent. Board. 4. Protected whistleblower channels. 5. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all security and management." He spoke simply. "We cannot demand a humane society if our balance sheets are inhumane." Pushback came. Costs, shareholders, habits. Ben raised his eyes. "The cost of blood is always higher than the cost of policy. I say this as someone who almost lost his life, and almost lost those I care about." Callie sat beside him, silent. In her notebook, she drew a straight line from Jordan's name to each point in the charter, from the instinct of one man to the institution of a company. That evening, dinner in the Queen's apartment. Ava read her assignment aloud. Write a letter to someone who changed you. She wrote to Jordan, father, teacher, cook of slightly burnt garlic. Callie washed dishes, Jordan wiped the counter. His phone lit. An email from the lawyer. Silas had sent a letter. Jordan opened it, sat down. Not a plea, just a single line. I once thought retaliation was the only justice. Watching you spare my life, I realized I had already lost at the very definition. Jordan folded the letter, placed it beside Aegis, the taped cardboard shield. He neither forgave nor carried hate. He put it in the right place. Memory. Closing analysis. Jordan's victim statement shifted justice from retribution to prevention, from individuals to systems. Carter's reforms institutionalized what instincts once carried, reducing human error with structural guardrails. Narrative control. Callie framed justice to resist tabloid spectacle. Jordan chose the classroom over cameras, its own verdict on society's misplaced spotlight. 10 quiet years slipped by like the steady breathing of a home learning how to stand. Ava Miles, now 18, stood nearly as tall as Jordan, with Callie's smiling eyes and Catherine's golden hair. Her senior photo ceremony was held at the Botanical Garden, the same place where Jordan and Callie had spoken their vows. An old elm cast shadows across stone paths. Strings of colored flags fluttered like voices of choices waiting to open. Ben Carter arrived early, more silver in his hair, jacket making him look younger for the effort of never missing what's real. He carried a speech that Callie had trimmed short. Don't list 7 bullet points about M&A ethics at a graduation, Ben. Mrs. Lei Chen showed up with 3 trays of food, as if feeding a small unit. Dana Ortiz boasted that Aegis was now a district-wide program, still holding to its philosophy, not to confront, but to pass through. Jordan stood slightly back, hands in pockets, seeing the whole scene as if an old security map had transformed into a family portrait. In those 10 years, Jordan's nightmares had thinned. Callie's 3 a.m. playlist was still there, but often he didn't need it. Sometimes he played it only to listen. Aegis grew from dozens to thousands. The city invited Jordan to draft public school standards, de-escalation language, safe corridors, legal stopping points. His name appeared in policy documents with fewer words than in that viral video years ago, and that was the right measure of success. At the garden, Ava placed her hand on Callie's arm. I got into engineering, urban safety systems. Callie's tears came fast. Jordan only nodded, silently counting. Railings, high-angle cameras, exit signs, things his daughter would design so others could get home safe. Ben nudged him. She's you from 10 years ago, except with blueprints instead of a radio. They gathered beneath the glass dome. Ben spoke short. Some things money can buy, some things only time, apology, and Sunday dinners can pay for. Jordan, Callie, thank you for giving me a place to set my coffee cup that isn't monetized. Ava, help this city build ways through. Applause wasn't loud, it was warm. A local reporter asked for a quick interview. Callie nodded for Ava to answer. She spoke of Aegis, the third-grade egg drop, and how her father taught her that running was also a skill. She ended, I want to build things that let people pass by each other without colliding. Ben whispered, that deserves a wall more than any slogan I ever paid for. Afternoon turned gold. Jordan and Callie stepped back, watching Ava laugh with friends. Teenagers turned adults, first loves stumbling, teachers glowing with pride. "Do you remember Leonard?" Callie asked. "Yes," Jordan said, "but now it feels like an old, silent reel." "And Westchester?" "A lesson written into the curriculum." They were quiet. Above, a plane streaked the sky like pencil across paper. That evening, Uncle Ben raised a glass of lemonade at a small party in the Queen's apartment. "I want to toast the ordinary things we almost lost," he said, voice trembling. The sound of water in the sink, the smell of slightly burnt garlic, geometry homework at 9 p.m., a text saying, "I'm home at 11. Those things are bulletproof." Ava laughed. "I agree with the part about burnt garlic, Uncle." Jordan lifted his hands in surrender. After the party, Jordan washed dishes, not out of duty, but as meditation. Callie strummed 3 chords on the old guitar Ben once threatened to replace but never did. Ava opened a box, placed her junior Aegis badge next to her new university key. "I'll carry both," she said. "One to remember why I'm learning, one to remember where I began." Night fell. Queens hummed its familiar song. Jordan stood at the window, watching the city pretend to be a sky of stars. In the reflection, he saw 3 figures: a black man who had learned to sleep through the night, a woman who had learned to need instead of only serve, and a girl who had learned to build so others could pass through. His phone buzzed, a family group chat. Ben sent a photo of 3 clean plates in his sink. "I wash dishes too. Feels peaceful." Mrs. Lei Chen added a picture of snack boxes for Ava's trip. "Eat warm." Dana sent a link. Aegis expanded to the next district. Jordan turned off the kitchen light. The house's code was simple. Washing dishes meant we're still here. Pancakes meant we have tomorrow. Aegis meant we don't need to fight to win. He wrapped his arms around Callie from behind, chin on her shoulder, the way one moors a boat at the end of the day. From the other room, Ava called out, "I'll be home this weekend." Jordan answered, "Home's waiting." Closing message and reflection. True strength lies not in the final blow, but in protecting the ordinary from the storm. Lasting justice comes through policy, not viral clips. Aegis proves how instinct can be institutionalized. Family is chosen. Uncle Ben, Mrs. Lei Chen, Dana, the Aegis kids, a network, not a fortress. Double consciousness transformed from burden into community skill. When society learns to pass through, the weight lifts from those who bore it alone. Outside, the city stayed loud. But here, beneath the darkened kitchen light, one home was quiet. And that quiet they had built themselves day by day. The story of Jordan Miles shows us. Strength isn't in the last punch. It's in how a black father chose to protect his home with love, calm, and trust. So tell me, what do you think is the greatest lesson from Jordan and his family's journey? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to hit like, share it to spread the message, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories to come.